Hey, bro. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I can just hear you. Good news on Matt.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you want to remove me as panelist, and I'll just jump in on the Q&A?
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, remove. There you are. Okay, I'm just going to leave it a minute or so until we have more people joining the call. For all of those of you who have joined already, welcome to Tejo. This will be a half an hour webinar introducing you to the Portugal Golden Visa program, our fund, and this fund that we are currently raising for. So I'll start that presentation in a minute or so. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and here we are. Okay. So I'm conscious of everyone's time, so I'm going to start the webinar. As I said, the goal is to have you fully versed on the Portugal Golden Visa opportunity, Tejo Ventures, and the Solar Future Fund over the next 30 minutes. Thank you for everybody from joining from all over the world. We do this on a weekly basis, so every Thursday is the plan. If we don't cover everything off here, obviously we're available for Q&A. So Tejo Ventures. So I'm co-founder and general partner alongside my co-founder Jan Ray. We are both foreign nationals living in Portugal. We call Portugal our home base. We're both based out of Lisbon, Jan with his young family, and then myself with my partner. We are entrepreneurs by background and investors. We've been angel investors, particularly in venture in the US for the last 8 to 10 years, doing many investments together, and as in our first fund as well. And we have built and sold companies as part of our sort of background, and we also do deals in Portugal, real estate deals, etc., etc. So we're well versed on Portugal. We're well versed on doing business in the country. We started Tejo Ventures 3.5 years ago to essentially help create greater efficiencies around accessing the program. So one of the sort of specialities, aside from the investing side of our business, is our focus on expediting that application for you and your family. So we have a full service, a full stack that does that for you. But our primary focus as a fund is to essentially curate the allocation of your capital during the 7 years that you will be in a fund as you go through the 5-year program to gain access to the rights to apply for citizenship. So Tejo Ventures does the 3 things. We focus primarily on doing investing for you, capital preservation focused. That's what we'll speak about today. We also have a service that expedites your onboarding, and then we manage our sort of community investors' experience of Portugal. So we manage, assist you in visiting the country each year that you come with your family, because there's a requirement for you to come with the family. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Golden Visa program itself. So it's Europe's premier program for a number of reasons that we'll go through. It was launched in 2012 and has, at this stage, around 12,000 primary applicants. The majority of applicants for a number of years of China, but now we're seeing this huge surge of interested investors coming out of the US, but also from many countries across the world. The program, as I said, is 12,000 at this point primary applicants, but then an additional almost 20,000 family members that are engaged in it. The good news, if you're applying in 2024 and into 2025, is that there's been a number of iterations on this program over the last couple of years that is driving to create greater efficiency around onboarding investors. So the law has passed that is beneficial to us, that ensures that the 5 years is 5 years, as opposed to what was happening before, which was a lot of delay to get into it. So there's a lot of cleaning up. This new centrist government really supports the program. And in actual fact, as you may have read from last year when they tried to pull the program, it was very much defended by the constitutional courts. And so it's had its sort of stress testing, and it's a robust program that has honored the investors that have committed to it thus far and intends to do so into the future. So the thing that makes the Portugal Golden Visa particularly attractive, and what makes it the most interesting program in Europe, is the fact that for a single 500,000 euro investment, you can onboard into the program your entire family. So that includes you, your legal partner or spouse, your children under the age of 18, children over the age of 18 who are full-time dependents, so basically in full-time education and single, and also parents over the age of 65. In addition to that, the program is only 5 years, and it starts from the moment you make your application, which I will go into. It is about 6 weeks after you start the sort of ball rolling. After that 5-year program, you then have the right to apply, and at the moment that's apply for citizenship, and that's at the moment it's taking about 2 years or so, but we're being told that is going to be dramatically improved. So we think safe side assumes 7 years. You might want to think that 5 years from now it could be 6, but let's say it's 7. So 7 years total in program. And in that time, you're only actually required to visit the country 14 days every 2 years. And because from the moment you apply, you'll wait about 18 months to be called forward for your biometrics, it means actually those 14 days every 2 years don't really start for about a year and a half. And so in reality, you'll probably only actually have to visit Portugal for a total of 3, maybe 4 weeks in the entire 5 years that you're in this program, okay? And that's in recognition that essentially high value investors that Portugal is trying to attract to the country do in fact have very busy, very well established, very well networked lives in their primary domain. And you're essentially accessing this program because you're looking for European optionality, either as a security. So we have a large cohort of investors that are looking for essentially geographic optionality as a security for the future, but also as a sort of intergenerational gift, essentially providing that optionality to your children as they become EU citizens, in addition to being, US citizens or Turkish, Chinese, etc., etc. So 500,000 euros investment, 5-year program, 14 days visiting the country every 2 years. At the end of that 5-year program, you apply for your citizenship. This is the general timeline. I would say 0 to 6 is probably more realistic on the application preparation. Essentially, we help you get all of your criminal record checks, all your background checks, your marriage certificates, etc., etc. We set up a bank account here for you in Portugal. We help you obviously transfer funds there, get all of that ready. When you're ready, you then make the application by essentially transferring 500,000 euros from your Portuguese bank account to the fund's bank account. That then creates the certification that allows for you to do the final application. You're then in. You wait 18 months at the moment to be called forward for biometrics. That means coming to the country to do fingerprinting, etc. And after biometrics, a few months post, you then get issued your first card. That card you hold for a couple of years, 14 days in country. The next card you actually, although it's a 2-year card, on current timelines, you'd only actually need it for a year or so, year and a half, and then you're essentially entitled to apply for that citizenship. So that's at 5 years. To get across the line and become a citizen, you will need to pass an A2 Portuguese exam. A2 Portuguese is basic conversational Portuguese. There's 2 ways to do this. You can either apply to be examined. They happen all over the world. Or if you struggle with language, as in my case, you can do a 100-hour intensive online training schedule. It's a group training schedule. As I said, it's 100 hours, so it's intense. It costs around 4,000 or 5,000 euros, but it also produces the certification that will pass you through that A2 Portuguese hurdle and allow you to get those passports. And once obviously those passports are issued, that's you European. So with all of that in mind, essentially the primary motivation when you're investing in this program is to get permanent residency and citizenship. This isn't a primary wealth creation strategy for our investors. And so the real sort of motivation as it relates to the capital is to ensure that it's a capital preservation focused strategy. And so what we have done with Fund 2, having successfully deployed our first fund, is we've built an investment strategy that enables a quick deployment of your capital. It's highly diversified across Portugal, which is 60%, 40% in the US, creates a dividend, is very easy to execute and easy to exit. It's essentially what we are putting out there is this sort of perfect golden visa investment product. So I'll talk to you about what that means. So as you would have seen from the communique that we've had with each other, we are a climate-focused fund, and we believe that the most effective way for us to engage in climate as our focus, whilst providing you with a risk-adjusted return, is to essentially fund the energy transition, the renewable energy transition. The global renewable energy capacity is set to triple over the next 7 years. As you can imagine, we are moving the entire mobility fleet electric. We're moving all of gas to heat pumps. We have to rapidly deploy more air conditioning as the world heats up. We're building data centers that will drive the AI that a lot of us hope will then help us come up with further solutions for creating real ideas around how to tackle climate. The world is moving to electrification fast and aggressively the world over. In fact, it is beating GDP growth at levels of deployment. And that's partly because solar is the fastest growing energy technology in history because of this rapid cost decline. So we've seen the cost decline over the last 30 years in solar is around 99% cost reduction, which is very, very similar to batteries as well. So battery demand is growing exponentially. We have an investment position in a large distributed battery company in the UK out of Fund 1. So we have sort of intel on this space. We understand this space. Europe is going to see a 6x increase in storage capacity. Batteries obviously complement solar very, very well, because when the sun's not shining, you want the energy that you produced during the day to be stored somewhere so that it can essentially level out the way that we're taking energy on and off the grid. So the question then becomes, where do you play in this space, in the renewable energy transition? So there is a niche called energy as a service. And energy as a service is very, very simple. In essence, energy developers go to commercial and industrial offtake partners, think factories, warehouses, industrial estates, business parks, large government buildings, and they essentially build solar infrastructure onto the roofs of these sheds. They then sign 15 to 20-year offtake agreements with the tenants of the shed, as I said. These are collateralized, so we own the infrastructure that we put on this roof until it's all been paid down. And it's as simple as that. And that's how it works. And so where we play in this is what we do something called project financing within the space. Typically, banks aren't interested in deploying capital into projects sub around 5 million euros. And projects of that scale in Portugal are over the 1 megawatt threshold. That means there's a bunch of onerous legislation and paperwork and everything else that you need to pass through in order to license these sort of projects. Anything under 1 megawatt doesn't have that sort of restriction. And so it means that we can be very, very dynamic in the way that we apply capital. We can basically have shovel-ready projects consistently coming online that we're financing. So in addition to the solar that we put onto these facilities, in some instances, we'll also be looking to do either complementary battery storage or standalone distributed battery storage as well, as we look to store the energy coming off of this solar infrastructure, and then either essentially sell it back into the tenants as they are, or into the energy communities that exist around these assets that we've developed, or in some instances do what's called a merchant plant model, where we essentially trade the energy on and off these batteries when it's opportune. So the majority of the strategy is us investing energy as a service as a project financing facility. That means it's essentially a debt facility, collateralized. It's modeled to pay an 8% net IRR over the duration of the 7 years that this fund will be live. And after about 18 months, 24 months in, half of that will be remitted to investors as a dividend, so around 4% dividend, cash dividend. So assume around 20,000 a year off the 500,000 euros. One of the potent things about the strategy, other than the fact that most projects are under 500,000 euros, meaning and not requiring significant licensing, etc., it means that we can deploy this capital really, really quickly and get your capital to work. But on top of that, it enables us to be highly distributed. 60% of the capital has to stay in Portugal as mandated by the regulator, but 40% can be invested offshore. And so we take that opportunity to also position ourselves in the US market, which has seen extraordinary migration, energy migration as a result of the IRA, that the bill that they passed a couple of years ago to help fund the renewable energy transition. So assume on the 15 to 20 million that we will probably end up raising off of this second fund, that would fund probably 50 to 60 projects. And so as an investor, you will have a small part of 50 to 60 projects spread across the world, all generating cash flows. Okay. This is how you would assume your investment to essentially perform for you. So the 500,000 euros comes out on day one. The assets come up and within, let's say, about 18 months. So assume 18 to 24 months is when cash starts being paid back to you. At the end of the 7-year period, so when we sell the portfolio in October of 2031, the entire portfolio, aggregated portfolio, will essentially be sold. And as a result of us having a little bit of equity in the SPVs that own all of these assets, we anticipate and have modeled the ability to provide an 8% total IRR performance for the period that we hold these assets. Okay, we'll exit by essentially selling to a pension fund, a utility, a family office, anyone looking to position themselves in the renewable energy market, who are looking for stabilized cash flows that are contracted, off a portfolio, is someone that we would sell to. That's the primary strategy for exit. But the secondary strategy for exit is essentially that we would refinance the portfolio and exit our investors that way. So that's the strategy. So we've talked about the Portugal Golden Visa. We've talked about our strategy being a capital preservation focused strategy. It's intentionally simple. There's nothing complex about this. You're essentially just project financing the development of solar energy assets. And so now talk to you about the team doing it. So the way it works in Portugal is you are represented by two parties. You have ourselves, we're the sort of the main party. We do all of the strategy, we do all the fundraising, we essentially design the portfolio. We're a team of ex-finance people, ex-energy people, ex-entrepreneurs. We've all been investors for a long time. We have our very own boffin. We have a solid state PhD, solid state physics PhD in Manuel. He's our long in the tooth solar guy in Portugal. But in addition to this team, we also have a team called Green One Capital. These guys essentially represent the conduit between you as the investor and the CMVM, who's the regulator. So the way it works is We bring the strategy, we bring the assets that we intend to invest in, we take it to the investment committee, which is these gentlemen here. They are all bankers, finance guys, very long in the tooth on due diligence as it relates to project financing and energy, and they rubber stamp and essentially represent the portfolio to the CMVM, to the regulator. So it's one of the enhancements that have been made on the Golden Visa program, because before you could invest in unregulated real estate, and so you were essentially just sucking your thumb and hoping the guy who's building the hotel is a good guy at building good hotels. And there was not much more regulation than that. And now it's been restructured so that you have this additional oversight. So that's the team that will be representing you. We have been investing in and around energy, both out of Fund 1 and now into Fund 2 as well. A lot of these investments on here are actual venture plays. So I spoke about Field, a distributed battery storage company. We have a couple of companies in the US as well. We've invested in wind power, offshore wind power, and then CleanWatt's top right is the energy community developers that we are developing the energy as a service assets with. They have a pipeline of around 50 megawatts of projects that are shovel ready and ready to go. So we have ample project pipeline. But in addition to those companies that we invested, I thought I'd quickly show you as well our general background in investing. Jan and I have been angel investors for about 10 years. Some of these companies sit in our personal portfolios, others sit in our portfolio in Fund 1. Our bent is investing in companies that are really exciting to us, and mostly that excitement is if we think it's a company that really helps change the world in a beautiful way. So sustainability, climate, equitable access to finance, healthcare, female empowerment, those sorts of companies we've taken positions up over the last few years. We've already started, just so if you were interested in seeing the projects that we've invested in already, we can send that across to you. We did a 2.5 million tranche out of Fund 1 that's developing 19 projects. I went and stood in one recently. We just did a film with Bloomberg from New York. They flew over to interview us about how new Golden Visa investors are investing in funds like ours because they recognize the sort of the power of a duality in which Portugal is doing our investors this great turn and allowing for access to citizenship, and our investors in turn are essentially investing in projects that help the commons. So no longer investing in luxury real estate, but actually investing in projects that really move the country forward. And so that was exciting to do. And as I said, we did it in one of our factories. I'm not sure if this is the one, but so we started deploying. To recap, 500,000 euros is the qualifying investment for the Portugal Golden Visa. Our fund, the minimum investment is 250. So if you wanted to split your investment between our fund and another, you can. There's a 1.5% subscription fee at the beginning that comes out of the principal. We have a 2% management fee annually, which we share with Green One Capital. And we need to produce a 5% return for you before we actually are engaged in any of the profit share. And so once we hit that hurdle, we then participate with 20% carry. Our targeted forecast is an 8% IRR net on the whole portfolio. So that's us in a nutshell. I've tried to be as quick as possible, cognizant that your time is valuable. We are very much a mission-driven fund. Our vision here is that potentially we can make the Golden Visa program be a climate program. We think there are great economics in the renewable energy transition. We believe that energy as a service is the best way to execute on this strategy from a risk-reward perspective. And we're really excited to work with the people that we're bringing on board into this program. We have amazing investors, really, really talented, very successful, excellent people that are a really great addition to Portugal. And so to our mind, the better we can get at enticing more people into this program, the better for Portugal, better for everybody. So that's us. Thank you very much for listening, and feel free to ask any questions now. Thanks. Adrian and Katie, I have opened up your audio so that we can just do, you can ask questions verbally without having to type it if you'd like, if you prefer. Hi, Adrian.
Hi there. Thank you so much for this.
Of
I
course.
it was a lot of information to digest, so I really
It's a
appreciate
lot.
it. Um,
Yeah, I rushed through. I'm conscious of your time, so try to get it done in 20 minutes for you. If the idea here is to give you a top line so that we can do a deep dive together, but yeah, feel free, ask me any questions.
yes, this is great. Well, I'm trying to look back. I took a couple of notes. I don't think I have any questions at the moment.
Okay.
Um, I feel like you just were very in depth, and I'm very intrigued about the model you've created.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's for us, it's a real mission, this. It just makes sense. If you're in, most of our investors are investing for their kids, right? For their kids' future. And
Sure.
so to our mind, if we're going to be investing in trying to create a safe space for our kids, then really we should be trying to invest in a safe planet.
Mhm.
And so that's what gets us out of bed to get this done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
If you feel free to email, I don't know if you have my email address. It's julian@tejoventures.com. The team is also on hello@tejoventures.com. So feel free to reach out to us after this, and we can do a slow walk through and really dig into any questions that you might have. Are you based in the US?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. West Coast or East Coast?
Actually, in the middle.
Oh, in
We
the
were in
middle.
California, Los Angeles, and we just moved to Indiana at the beginning of the year.
Oh, okay, cool. With
So
work or?
um, we're new to the Midwest.
Okay. Yeah, because we're very used to, like, most of our investors are off the West Coast.
Oh,
We
sure.
have some off the East, and we only have one from the Mid at this point. So we're building out.
Great.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
great.
listen, thanks so much for attending.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah, I'll wait to hear back from you on email.
Okay, I'll be in
Yeah,
touch. Thank you so much.
beautiful. Thank you. Katie, is there anything that I didn't answer on your side?
Hi, I didn't actually think I raised my hand, so I don't have a specific question, but I did want to also just say thank you for this presentation. It was wildly concise. Very, I'm
Yeah.
actually living in the Algarve now.
Oh, cool.
Moved here full time about 2 months ago, but bought the house that we live in 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't a golden visa situation. It was just under the
Yeah.
threshold. So
Yeah.
we're going through the D7 process.
Right.
But
Right.
it's just great to see another community. I think a friend, I knew Courtney way back in New York, and a friend of mine
Right.
invested, I think, in your initial program with the
Right.
hotel.
Right.
So just keeping an eye on what you're doing. It's amazing. And
Yeah, and Katie, we have so I moved over in 2016, and I started a lot with a friend of mine, a group called the Lisbon Good Vibe Tribe. Obviously, we don't stretch all the way to the Algarve, but it is a group of just under 300
oh wow,
expats who've moved to the country. So there's lots of advice in there and so on. And so if that was interesting, you could send me a little bio intro, and I can get you into that group as well.
that is great.
It's yeah, it's good for sort of social. And also, Katie, I think CBN probably told you, but we run an ambassador program. So when you have people in your network who are looking at the Golden Visa program and you introduce them to us, then we reward that with commissions as well. So
Okay,
we found the most successful way to onboard investors is word of mouth. Most of our investors have actually recommended each other to join our fund. So
I would
um,
imagine that. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah,
sounds. And my friend Dorothy, who invested maybe a year or two ago, I know was like through a word of mouth as well. I'm actually
yeah.
we've got a pretty big piece of land that we're thinking through uses for it, maybe opening a campground with a sustainable agricultural and
Very
edge.
cool.
And I thought about whether a Golden Visa investment opportunity was the right move for that. I'm not thinking it probably is, but it is really fascinating to see.
Golden Visa is very, very, very hard fundraise, very hard fundraise model. So the reason Jan and I started this way is because we want to build a Trojan horse into climate fund, raising climate capital. We're obviously entrepreneurs and angels, but we weren't big venture guys at the time, and so we figured that by doing this and raising 50 million or so over a couple 2-3 years, that gives us the credibility to then go and raise larger amounts of capital. And historically the real estate funds have raised 150 to 200 million in a year into real estate, and so we think the tide will come back in which we'll be able to do something similar. So that's the vision. I think if you're going to raise capital into doing a project like that, you'd be better off just doing private.
I think you're right. I think we'll just, we'll join the country club down the street and see what comes of it.
Yeah. And I would also make sure that you're really dialed into the local mayor and the sort of the people who work in local planning, because a dear friend of ours he's been waiting 9 years to get planning consent for a beautiful farm to table hotel and private residencies just south of Lisbon on a large tract of land that you would think would be a 2-year approval, and they're 9 years in, they're still waiting. So it takes a little while. Having said that, I got an article from the Wall Street Journal, came in 2 days ago, I think, talking about how the Algarve has seen this huge influx of Americans, and that's really driving land prices down there. So you're probably onto a good thing.
It's so interesting. I see that also, but there's so many people I meet who have never met an American tourist. So I always wonder how much of that hype is real and how much of it, like, numbers are numbers, but it's definitely, this is my first time being here during the summer over the past 3 years. I've only been here in the fall or the winter, spring. It's the Germans and the English. You can't.
No, it's very true. And to your point about what is real, we've been far more engaged, or I've been far more engaged with journalism this year because, I have a Google alert coming in on anything that's talked about with Portugal Golden Visa, and the amount of lies and misinformation has been extraordinary. And from, reputable, Reuters, Fortune, Weipo, like you just think these people are just making this stuff up. But I think there's a huge commercial opportunity around American retirees over the next decade. And I think if you were to build a business around creating retirement homes on beautiful pieces of land, then I think I think you do very well. But you just have to have the patience of Job, because getting planning is just a nightmare.
With the house we bought, actually it backs to the village's castle wall, originally built 1600 or whatever.
Right.
And we're already in a back and forth with the camera about what we can do there, and they want to buy it, but they want to lowball it. And it's right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. It is definitely the case that nothing is as fast as you would hope. Well, look, when inquiries come in on Portugal and Golden Visa, then do send them our way. We'd be delighted to have you as an ambassador. Sure. And what thanks for the good vibes tribe.
So Good Vibe Tribe. It's a WhatsApp group. Send me. You've got my email, Julian@tejoventures.com. Send me a paragraph intro and your cell phone number. I'm going offline for a week as of tomorrow, so it would be in a couple of weeks, but I will, or 10 days, or maybe I can get it done if you do it now.
No, all good.
I'll get you up into that group.
Amazing. That would be great. Really nice talking to you, and nice meeting you.
Really nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for your time. Speak to you soon.
See you again.
Bye.